saying is that you take advice from the clinical leaders. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the whole point of them. You know, local decisions, localism. I'm reassured that Ben Garmer has said that the A&Es won't go. I think we'll have to look for efficiencies. You know, we're still living in austerity times. We want to ensure that patients get the best care, but we can do it more efficiently. And I think, you know, this is what we've got to look for. This is the reality of life.
We can't go on running up big debts, can we?
We say under this government and its policies, already the debts are 100 million, and they're now being rushed into this decision to try and stop them becoming 200 million.
He's shaking his head.
David, the Conservative Party has to understand that the drive for efficiency and value for money in the health service isn't starting now. It's gone on year after year, and the sorts of cuts that we're experiencing now are causing deep pain.
We protected the budget, if you remember. You know, we have not cut the NHS budget. But the demands are such. I mean, we're going to touch on EU later, but the demands of immigration, our increasing populations, put huge strains on the health service, and that is part of the picture. But we haven't cut the budget, but we need to use those resources more efficiently. The budget of the NHS is larger than small countries, their entire economy. So we've got to use that money more efficiently.
Mr. Gummer said twice in that interview that they're putting a lot of money into the NHS.
Well, they haven't met their promise, which is to maintain the funding in real terms, and that's what David Cameron told us when he got himself elected. But if we don't also value the people that work in these hospitals, you know, when Ben Cameron talks about the staff shortages, he and his government haven't trained enough doctors and nurses, and they don't pay them sufficiently to recognise the services that we all rely upon as patients.
Okay, I don't think we're going to agree on this, are we?
I don't think we are.
Okay, let's move on. The debate over our future in Europe stepped up another gear this week with 3 high-profile visits from the Remain campaign. The Prime Minister, the Lib Dem leader and the Minister for Universities all came to the region. First, the Prime Minister. He went to Suffolk, where he spoke to 200 young people, telling them that local firms could lose out if we left the EU.
If you go to Luton and you see people making Vivaro vans, brilliant factory, brilliant workers, great product, we know at the moment those get exported all over Europe with no tariffs, no quotas, no taxes. If you're not in the situation we're in now, can you guarantee that those goods will be able to go to Europe without paying a tariff?
For the Liberal Democrats, Tim Farron went to Bedford to highlight the benefits of EU migration.
The simple fact is that there are 2 million EU citizens here in the UK, and guess what? There are 2 million UK citizens elsewhere in the European Union, and for what it's worth, the majority of those people who are here in from the European Union are working, are paying tax, and those people who are British and overseas tend not to be economically active, tend to be more likely to be retired. So Britain benefits clearly a net gainer from that situation.
The Universities Minister, who happens to be the brother of Boris Johnson, went to Cambridge to warn that Brexit could put millions of pounds of science funding at risk.
Cambridge is one of the universities that benefits most from these European funding streams, and we don't want it to lose access to them, nor do we want Cambridge scientists to lose access to the collaborations that are producing great science across Europe, nor access to the facilities which Britain on its own couldn't afford to build.
David Campbell Bannerman. Tim Farron said we benefit from being in the EU.
Well, it costs us a huge amount. He's touching on migration, which is a great issue. We're talking about a city bigger than Newcastle arriving in Britain every year, mainly thanks to EU migration, non-EU as well. But we cannot build enough. We've been talking about hospitals, you know, cannot build enough resources, schools, hospitals, GP, to manage this huge influx of people, mainly from the EU.
Yeah, but he was saying there that actually those people come here to work and pay their taxes. A lot of Brits that go abroad actually are pensioners and don't.
Well, that's right. Well, actually, it's true that not many Brits actually go abroad to work in Europe, but many come over here. We've got about 2.6 million people actually working here. You know, we need a visa system like Canada or Australia. We want immigration, but we want it from all over the world. You know, there's a lot of discrimination. It's an unfair system.
Well, we only get about 300,000 coming to this region, don't we?
Well, it's still actually overloading the system. I think, you know, the numbers, you know, you're talking 300,000 as if it's not much. It's twice Cambridge every year. You know, I mean, these are big numbers.
Well, as your film showed, if you send 2 million people back, but then 2 million Brits come back to Britain, they're going to need all the school places and the health service and the homes and the jobs. So it's a totally nonsensical argument. And of course, we need control of our borders. We need a well-managed migration system. It needs to be fair. Right, all of those things Labour absolutely supports.
How will you do that?
But over half of immigration into Britain last year was from outside the European Union.
That's true.
Right? 4 out of 5 migrants in Britain are from outside the European Union. David Cameron would miss his target by double, even if you exclude European Union migrants. It's not an answer to leave the European Union.
But if we came out, for example, Vivaro vans, they'd still buy those in Europe, wouldn't they?
Well, this is the huge trade argument that we've seen from your government, David, even though you don't want to avow it this week, that actually jobs, 400,000 jobs in the east of England, places like the Vivaro van manufacturer in Luton, Ford in Dunton, 3,000 jobs, that those jobs are at risk if we lose the European Union.
I have to say it's completely nonsense that we are the largest customer of the rest of the EU. Britain is. We're a massive market. We have a huge deficit. It's now hit record levels, 89 billion.
So it's your government created the deficit?
Germany is 31 billion. No, it's, you know, we buy a lot of foreign goods, and we'll carry on buying a lot of foreign goods outside the EU.
But this
we will
region,
not get tariffs.
This region trades more with the EU than any other region.
Yeah, it's very important. But you know, I've been speaking this week to Australian ambassador, the New Zealand ambassador, Canadian ambassador. They're all getting what I call WTO Plus deals with the EU. They don't have to pay a membership fee, they don't have to have mass immigration, they've got a visa system, all of those countries, but they have access to the single market.
Well, he's going to mention Norway and say that Norway...
Well, Norway's not the model we would choose.
Let's take this argument, though, because I was talking with the New Zealand ambassador this week, and also the government asked the Commonwealth countries, Australia, New Zealand and the other Commonwealth countries, and they also said it was better for them if Britain stayed in the European Union. And they said that there isn't an alternative deal.
Well, when you have private conversations with them, these are Commonwealth countries.
The government's balance of competence review.
We've been trading with these nations for hundreds of years, you know, and that will go on. And we've been trading, like King's Lynn had German trading posts, you know, for example. You know, trade will go on because we're the largest customer, and we will get a deal that gets rid of tariffs, and we'll be fine. And then we can spend 12 billion on our roads.